The phone rings on a gray Tuesday in Redmond, Washington, in the fall of 2002. It's a lawyer from a company in California, the same company that laid you off 6 months ago. She has an unusual question. The product you invented, the one they bought, the one they shelved, they're shutting it down. Would you like to buy it back? Price? Nothing up front. Just a royalty on whatever you manage to sell. You say yes before she finishes the paragraph. And to understand why that yes was the best decision of your working life, you have to go back 3 years to the safest job in America. 1999. You work on a sprawling software campus in Redmond, the kind with free soda in every kitchen, a stock ticker everyone checks at lunch, and 50,000 of the smartest people you've ever met. You will not be naming it. You don't have to. It's a good job. A great job, honestly. Good salary, options, interesting problems. When you joined 6 years ago, there were 15,000 people here. Now there are 50. And somewhere in year 6, sitting in your third reorg meeting of the quarter, you admit the thing you've been avoiding. You're comfortable. And comfort is not the same thing as alive. But here's what working inside a giant actually gives you if you're paying attention. A view. You can see what the company builds, and more importantly, the gaps where it doesn't. The product's too small for a 50,000-person company to bother with, and too big to not matter. Your gap is email. Every large company on Earth is suddenly running enterprise email, thousands of messages an hour, and their administrators are flying blind. Where does it all go? Who's sending what to whom? Which systems are choking? Nobody can answer. There's no reporting, no analytics, nothing. The giant ships the email system itself, the plumbing, but the meters, the gauges, the map of what's actually flowing through the pipes? Not on any roadmap you can find. Too small for them. And you keep thinking the same dangerous sentence. Somebody is going to build this. Here's the first thing this story teaches, so write it down. The best startup ideas are rarely lightning bolts. They're gaps you can only see from inside. A real customer problem your employer is structurally incapable of caring about. You weren't a visionary. You were positioned. So, you do the math on a legal pad, because every ground floor story has a legal pad. Savings, about $40,000. Monthly burn, if you live carefully, $3,500. That's 11 months of runway. 11 months to build a company before the money decides for you. You give notice. And you learn immediately that quitting the giant is a social event. Half your hallway thinks you're brilliant, half thinks you've lost your mind, and both halves keep their stock options. The badge comes off. The door clicks. You are now a software company of one. You name it Sirana Software. The name came off a map. 2 place names spliced together on a night you've long since forgotten. It sounded like a real company. That was the entire criteria. In 1999, half the industry was named this way, and worse. The days are long and strange and completely yours. You architect the product you saw in the gap, software that tracks every message moving through an enterprise email system, where it came from, where it went, and turns the chaos into reports an administrator can actually act on. Visibility, security, control. Month 5, you hire your first employee. Month 8, a second. All bootstrapped, no venture capital, no board, just your dwindling 40 grand and a product taking shape one late night at a time. The runway math is no longer theoretical. You can see the end of it from here. 6 months in, you do something nobody in the industry had thought to attempt. You point Sirana's agent at the internet's 1 million largest domains and map, for every single one, what email product they're running, and which servers are delivering their mail. It's a smaller internet then, but no one had ever drawn this map. The announcement lands in PC Week. Type in a domain name, and if your agent had visited it, and it had visited nearly everyone, Sirana could tell you exactly what their email system was made of. For anyone selling to email administrators, it's a goldmine. And here's the teach. Press is leverage for a nobody. You can't outspend anyone, but the company that drew the map everyone wants looks inevitable. And inevitable-looking companies get phone calls. The call comes from California, a large public software company. You're not naming this one either. Their message is 4 words long. We're interested. Fly down. There is a problem, and the problem is that the product isn't finished. The architecture is real, the vision is real, and the demo does not entirely exist. The meeting is in 2 days. So you finish it on the plane. Seat by the window, laptop on the tray table, watching the battery meter drain like your runway, stitching screens and wiring data until the flight attendant makes you shut it for landing. Somewhere over Oregon, the demo becomes real enough to show. You present to a conference room of executives. Your one laptop against their whole building. And the demo holds. It shows a live map of email flowing through an enterprise, and you watch the room understand it in real time. Nobody had shown them the pipes before. A while later, the phone call. We want to buy you, not license the product. Not partner, buy the company, bring you aboard, and have you finish it inside their walls. They're offering what feels to a bootstrapper with weeks of runway left, like the whole world, mostly stock, a real salary, and a future. Understand the era this offer lands in. Startups in early 2000 are being valued not on profits, there are none, and not on sales, often none of those either, but on headcount, on momentum, on maps like yours. In retrospect, a collectively crazy time, and understand what they're actually buying. Not revenue, a finished vision, a 2-year head start, and the only map of the internet's email systems in existence. It's build versus buy math, and this time, you are the one being bought. Now the fine print, the part no one explains to first-time founders. The price comes mostly in restricted stock, shares you own on paper but cannot sell. They vest over years, locked up while you keep working. The number they say sounds like wealth. The number you can actually spend is your salary. You fly to California to sign the papers. And mark the date, because history did. It's March of 2000, the day the Nasdaq hits its all-time high. The market that priced this deal, that priced the whole gold rush era, will not see that number again for 15 years. You don't know that. Nobody in that building knows that. You sign Sirana away at the exact top of the greatest bubble in modern history, shake hands, and fly home an employee again. Be honest about this part. It was great. The product ships. They hire more people around you. You're doing the exact work you dreamed about in that reorg meeting. Except now it exists. Customers run it. And for the first time in your life, you feel financially comfortable. Not rich, comfortable. It's enough. But it's the year 2000, and outside your window, the entire software economy is quietly starting to die. The dot-com crash doesn't arrive like a storm. It arrives like a tide. Quarter by quarter, the customers stop signing, the forecasts get revised, and the stock your wealth is written in, the stock you cannot sell, slides. And slides. You watch your paper worth lose most of its value in a chart you refresh every morning. Powerless. That's the restricted stock lesson, paid in full. A locked share isn't money. It's a bet on someone else's next 2 years, made with your compensation. In a rising market, nobody reads that clause. You got to read it in a falling one. Then the strategy changes, the way it always does in a downturn. The company narrows to its core, and you learn where your product actually sits by watching its name move down the slide decks. Top of the roadmap, then a bullet point, then a footnote, then a silence. The layoff, when it comes, is professional and brief. It isn't personal. That's the part nobody tells you. In a downturn, a strategy decides, and people just deliver the news. You hand back the badge. Your product stays behind, on a shelf, in a building you no longer work in. And now the low point, drawn, honestly. You go back to the giant in Redmond, the company you quit with such certainty 3 years ago, as a contractor. Same hallways, same free soda, different badge color, the one that means temporary. Some of the people who thought you were crazy don't say anything. They don't have to. 6 months of that. Writing other people's code by day, doing the quiet arithmetic of a person whose big swing didn't connect. The startup, gone. The stock, worth a fraction of the number they said. The product you invented, dying in a warehouse of shelved software 800 miles away. Most stories in this genre skip this chapter. We're not skipping it. Because what happens next only means something if you know exactly how far down you were when the phone rang. Fall 2002. The Gray Tuesday. The lawyer from California. They are formally terminating the product. End of life. Off the books. And someone in that building, closing out the file, asked a question that almost never gets asked. Should we see if the founder wants it? The offer, in full. The product, the source code, the intellectual property, back to you. No purchase price. No money down, which is convenient because you have none. Just a modest royalty on future sales for a few years. All they need is your signature. Now stop, because this is the mechanism this entire episode exists to teach, and almost nobody knows it happens. Companies give products back. A shelved product isn't an asset to them anymore, it's a liability. Support obligations, security patches, lawyers, storage, a thing they must maintain and cannot sell. But handed back to the one person on Earth who knows every line of it, that liability becomes a royalty stream. Found money on a product they'd already written down to zero. They don't lose a thing. You get your life's work back for a signature. Everyone at that table wins, and hardly anyone ever thinks to sit down at it. The teach, distilled. When a company kills a product you built, ask. The worst case is no. The best case is the deal you could never afford, priced by people who've already stopped caring. Dead code on their books can be a living company on yours. You sign the documents at a kitchen table. No bankers, no champagne. Sirana software exists again. Same name, same product, same founder. Total capital deployed $0 and one phone call answered on the first ring. Then you make the two calls that matter. Dean, a database engineer you'd worked beside for years. The kind of quiet talent who makes data do things it shouldn't be able to do. And Rob, sales and marketing. The one who can walk into a room of strangers and leave with 3 meetings. Both say yes. 3 partners. Dean owns the data layer. Rob owns the market. You own the application that ties it all together. The same architecture you once finished on an airplane. Nobody's employee. 3 names on the door, and one of them, finally and permanently, is yours. And the company works. Not a rocket, a business. Customers renew. The royalty checks go out to California. Small and manageable. A receipt for the strangest deal of your life. Some years are good. Some years you skip your own paycheck so the employees don't skip theirs. It grows. It breathes. It's yours. Here's what you notice. Somewhere in those first years back, the fear is different now. An employee's fear is them. Reorgs, roadmaps, decisions made 2 floors up. An owner's fear is math, revenue, payroll, renewals. Math is harder. Math is also fair. You never once miss the other kind. Now the part of the story the genre always lies about, told straight. The next 15 years are not a montage. They're a living. Good years and thin ones. Employees sometimes, and sometimes just the partners and the quiet. No yacht arrives. No acquisition letter with enough zeros. A real small business in the real economy. The partners, in time, move on. The way partners honestly do. Dean first, years in, to a chapter of his own. Rob later. No betrayals, no lawsuits, no movie ending in either direction. People's lives change across 15 years. You stay. It turns out you were always going to be the one who stays. And eventually, the product itself, the one you sketched in the gap, finished on the plane, sold, lost, and bought back, reaches its own end. The cloud era arrives. Email moves somewhere the old architecture can't follow, and the software that built your life quietly stops being needed. Products are mortal, all of them. So let's tally it the way a stranger would. The product is gone. The partners are gone. You never made it big. By the scoreboard this genre usually keeps. Exits, valuations, 14 locations in 5 states, this story fails. Except that's the wrong scoreboard, so look at the right one. What did you actually buy on that Gray Tuesday in 2002 for $0 down? Not source code. You bought the deed to your own working life. 20+ years now, every product, every decision, every risk, every rescue, yours. The giant in Redmond is still holding all hands meetings. You haven't sat through one since. And ownership, it turns out, is the only asset in this story that never crashed. The stock crashed. The product aged out. The partners moved on. The thing you signed for at a kitchen table has paid out every single working day for 2 decades. Nobody can lay you off from your own name. Which is why, all these years later, you're still building. The cloud that killed your first product became the platform for the next ones. Now it's AI, and the gaps are opening faster than anyone can fill them, and you still see them the way you saw the first one, from up close, positioned. The tools changed. The game never did. Because that's what the buyback really taught you. Companies are mortal. Products are mortal. Even partnerships are mortal. But a person who can see a gap, build the thing, and hold the pen when it's signed, that person is never finished. They're just between products. So the safe badge on the sprawling campus, or your name on a door that some years barely pays for itself, knowing everything you know now about how this one turned out. That's the real question this story asks, and it's harder than it looks. This was the story of Sirana Software, built in a gap, sold to a giant, lost in a crash, and bought back for nothing but a promise. Based on a true story. Real mechanisms, real stakes, no yacht. Subscribe to Ground Floor for more stories about ordinary people building real money, one deal at a time. And tell me below, the badge or the door? Which one do you keep?